today, let's go ahead and get started here with our presentation on how to build an online community. We are going to be talking about how to build an online community panel. We're going to define that a little bit. We'll get more into that. I am Fontheria Johnson. I go by Z. I work with QuestionPro. I'm the community manager for QuestionPro. If you joined us before, you've heard my voice, I'm sure, doing trainings. I love doing this stuff, love getting to show off what our product does and how easy it is to use. I also have with me Dan Fleetwood. He's with Survey Analytics. Give a shout out to Dan.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. He has been with Survey Analytics for a while. He's going to be helping us with the actual demo, and you'll see a little bit of why we've got people from these two companies together here in a moment. So let's take a look at some housekeeping stuff today. Just to let you know, we are recording this session, so we might move a little fast, and we understand that, but we will have the recording available. In addition to the recording, we are working on putting together a couple of how-to guides that will summarize some of the information we're presenting. So you'll have both the recording, you'll have a copy of this presentation, as well as a copy of the how-to guides that include the steps and best practices for building your online community panels. As you've already used, thank you so much everyone who used the Q&A panel already. Please feel free to use that throughout the presentation to ask for clarification, to ask any question that you want us to address. We do have someone who is online ready to answer those questions online. We will do our best to answer those as they come in. If we don't get to you while we are in the presentation, we will definitely follow up with you afterwards. But please use that Q&A panel to be sending information through. All right, our agenda today, we are going to be covering first the definition of an online community panel. I think there's a lot of confusion about the difference between a panel, online community, so we're going to clarify that right up front so we all are on the same page. Then we're going to talk about making the case for online community panels. Then we'll dive into how to build an online community panel. This will be the best practices portion. And then we'll give you some screener questions for how to get those people into your panels. And then we're going to do a demo of the QuestionPro and Communities integration. Communities is a product from Survey Analytics that we have connected with to be able to bring it to our QuestionPro clients for them to create their online community panels. So first, let's take a look at what is and what is not an online community panel. So what it is not is probably easier to define than what it is. It is not the traditional online community. So online communities have been used quite a bit. You've probably seen like the Apple support community. That is probably the most traditional online community style. It's an online forum. It's moderated. People can ask each other questions and answer each other's questions, but online community panels takes it a step further. You can use the people in that panel to conduct surveys and focus groups. They also have the opportunity to participate in forums, but we're opening it a little bit more when we do online community panels. It's also not an email campaign. So this is not the type of panel that you're going to use for sending out regular marketing emails. These are research participants. And it is not a social network. So you might think community, you might think online social community. This goes far beyond that. This is driven by the owner rather than being participant driven. If any of you have joined in Facebook communities, you know that that is totally participant driven, and probably more so than it is owner driven. Also, having an online community panel, like the one we're going to show you today, it allows owners to analyze member activity, whereas the social networks, you really don't get ownership of member information. So that hopefully explains what an online community panel is and is not. So in summary, an online community panel, a group of people who are research participants, they opt into this panel. You can use them to conduct your surveys, to have focus groups, and you can use the information that they submit to analyze your members, analyze the information that they are providing to you as members of your online community panel. Now that we have defined what an online community panel is, let's look at why you would want one to begin with. So there are tons of opportunities that you can get from having an online community panel. First, you can make it a super tailored design that extends your brand experience. So people are already familiar with your brand. You can use this to even further that. You have willing research participation. So again, these are people who are opting in to be part of a research group. So that means they're already invested in your brand. They are already invested in your organization, and they want to be able to provide their voice. You can use this group to test ideas, and those ideas can range anywhere from new marketing campaigns, new products. Even I participated in one. They did a survey on the signs in the stores that they were going to be putting up. So you can totally use these panels for a whole range of activities. It also increases brand loyalty. The people who are part of these online community panels, they're invested stakeholders in your organization. And as such, as they are providing feedback and as they're seeing that feedback be put into action, you're increasing that brand loyalty because you're listening to them, they feel listened to, and they are more likely to be continually coming back to you. It also decreases time to field for questionnaires. So this is the really practical stuff, right? Instead of having to have your market research department, which sometimes it's the same as your marketing department. So you might have one people, you might have a group of people. Instead of needing to work with individual vendors to try to gather a panel of participants to answer your questionnaires, and this is a panel that you have to pay for. This is a panel that it's only going to be used once for your survey. This decreases time to field for those questionnaires, makes it so much easier, makes it way more streamlined. One of the customers that has already been using this actually did some analysis of what their savings were for using an online community panel, and they came up with the fact that it was 3 times faster to get the surveys out and back, and 10 times cheaper for them to be able to conduct all of this research. What does that mean? It means you can do more research. It means you can do more, you can get more out of this. You can really use this panel to feed a lot of your strategy, whether it's marketing strategy, product strategy, organizational strategy. They are there, they are willing participants, and you can really get a lot of information from them and use them as partners in what you are doing. So let's take a look now at some best practices. So if you're joining today, you might be somewhat familiar with these online community panels, but you might be a little confused on how to get one working your own. So first things first, start with your strategy. This is probably the most crucial step. It is easy for you to go and start trying to gather information, start putting together surveys, and suddenly you find yourself in a situation where you're sending a survey maybe once every 3 months and you're not really sure what you're doing in the community. That's not the best approach. The best approach is for you to sit down, take some time to plan things out, ask the questions. Who should join? How often are you going to engage with them? So how much time and resources are you going to be committing to managing this community? What kind of input are you going to seek from the community? And how will you reward them? And some of these naturally go into other questions, such as what kind of input will you seek can also lead to, are you going to maybe have different campaigns that you're going to use with this online community? Gather your customer lists. Once you have your strategy set up, let's take a look at who you are going to use to start feeding your community. The easiest thing to do is use existing customer lists. Now, these customer lists can range from anything from an existing Excel spreadsheet to your Salesforce CRM to any other kind of customer relationship management tool that you already have that you're gathering information on. Whatever you do, gather that customer list and take a look at that question that you asked for your strategy, who should join. Now, when I was looking at this, one of the things that struck me as we have been talking about creating our own community for QuestionPro is the difference between your high-ticket buyers and your frequent buyers. And you might want to adapt your community depending on what you are going to use them for. And that will affect whether you decide that you're going to not worry about how much they are spending with you as much as you worry about how often they are visiting your business or how often they are needing to participate in the community. So take a look at your frequent buyers versus your high-ticket buyers. Maybe you want a good mix of both. Totally depends on what your strategy is going to be. So in that case, value really might not matter as much as frequency. Invite the customers to your community is the next step. We'll show you how you can do this easily using communities. You're going to be able to set up a portal, and that portal is just going to be a standalone page that lets people sign up, get into the community, answer a quick feeder questionnaire so that you can determine, get some information from them about what maybe you want to learn, such as demographic information, how often they are involved with your company, but you're going to be able to invite them into your community. A lot of community builders, they start small with a targeted group. I think this is a fantastic strategy because it lets you, if you're new to this, get the hang of what you're doing, test things out a little bit. Your impact and reach is a little smaller, but it will still be really helpful. And then once you and your community, once you've gotten the hang of things, kind of worked out the kinks maybe, go big and open it to anyone and everyone. And this means you do a full marketing campaign. You can go out, really push getting community members involved. Make sure also that you're going to keep them engaged. So don't bring people into your community. Don't build it and then leave them. You really want to make sure that you're keeping them engaged. Keep them involved. And one way to do that is when you are surveying, keep the surveys short. I think this is one of the beauties of having your online community panel. They are already there. They are already invested, so you don't have to keep surveys really long. You can really do short, targeted surveys that are still rewarding participation, but are still getting people to feel engaged. They still feel like they are providing information. If you have the really long surveys, not a good experience for your community members, not keeping them as engaged, likely to have higher dropout rates just in any case that you have a super long survey. But this is indeed a case where you keep your surveys really short to the point, you're going to probably have a lot more success. All right, now we've gone through some of the best practices for building your online community panels. Now let's talk about rubber hitting the road here. The first thing that you're probably going to want to do is do some participant screening questions. And again, you will have access to this afterwards, so you will be able to use these, have access to these questions that you can use. But these screening questions, if you have ever joined an online community panel, you're probably familiar with these questions already. And always, depending on your strategy, will depend on what questions you're going to be including anyhow. But these are bare bone basics, what you should definitely ask as your first screening questionnaire for your participants. The first being, how often would you be willing to participate in short online surveys? So the thing here is you want to get an understanding of what is going to be their level of involvement. This is really easy to do, and it doesn't mean that you don't accept them into your community. You don't necessarily want to just accept people who are willing to participate all the time. Make sure you get a good group that makes across everyone. But you do want to ask that question. The second question would be, how willing would you be willing to participate in online focus groups? This will be really crucial so that you know, because part of communities, part of this communities thing is being able to conduct online focus groups. You already will then be able to filter to those people who said they would be willing to participate. And there you go. You have your group that you can use to do these online focus groups. Third, what is your primary reason for wanting to join the community? This is kind of your qualitative question, kind of getting an idea of how invested they really are in this. And then, of course, your demographics. And these demographics can span everything from location, age, gender, income level, frequency of interacting with your organization. Again, you might add to this. You might not consider some of these important, depending on what your strategy is and how you are intending to engage with your online community panel. All right, so we've gone through best practices. We've gone through discussing what an online community panel is and what we're going to be using this for. Please feel free again, quick reminder, use that Q&A panel if you have questions here. We're now going to be jumping into QuestionPro and taking a look at how easy it is for you to create this online community. So first, let me get into my QuestionPro account where I have set up communities. So this is one, if you've joined any one of our trainings before, we've not really gone into the integrations tab. Well, today is your lucky day. We're going to go into integrations, and we're going to come here. You'll see we have a number of integrations. The one we're going to focus on, of course, is panel management. Now, if you don't have this set up yet, you're going to see, instead of this installed, you're going to see a button here, a green button, similar to this install for Dropbox. You'll see a button that says Setup. And you click Setup. That immediately gives you a line into our support team to be able to set up your panel, get this connection set up. Once that is set up, you come back in, you log back in, you'll see exactly this. It's installed, it's ready for you to go. So now you just click Panel Management, and you'll see down here the connector button. You're going to click Login. It really is this easy. Click Login, and here, voila, you are now connected to communities from Survey Analytics where you can start creating your communities. And at this point, I'm actually going to transition over to Dan, who is going to give you the step-by-step Beginner's 101, how to create an online community. So Dan, let me go ahead and make you the presenter here.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, thanks, Z. And yeah, today I will show you how easy it is to create a community inside of QuestionPro with the Survey Analytics integration. Now, creating a community may seem daunting at first, but within Survey Analytics, we make it really easy for you, and I'll show you just how easy that is now. So the first step is, once you're inside of this community's admin portal here, is you want to click Create a New Community. Once you click this, a box will pop up where you can name your community. So this, I will name it QuestionPro Community. You can add a heading. I'm looking to have QP, and you can add your community URL. So this one, I'm going to go QuestionPro Community. And then here's where you can choose your email from, and you can also choose the email from name that you want it to become, that you want it, any communication that's going out to your members to be from. So here I'm going to put down, I'm going to put research QP. I'm going to save these changes. So once I've done this, you can see that now it's time for me to set up my theme. You can see the default theme here. You can select from these variety of themes here. These are pretty the template version of the themes. Once you find one that kind of fits with your overall brand and theme, you can select that here. At any time, you can also preview it, so you can view how that looks. Now, this preview takes you to what's called the member portal. And at the member portal, this is where members can go and they can sign up for the community. They can log in if they have if they've already signed up, they can log in. And once they're logged in, they can complete any surveys, redeem rewards, answer any discussion questions that you may have up there. So that's what we can do with the member portal here. And it's really a good engagement piece to keep the members coming back and taking those surveys over and over again. So once you have the preview set up, you want to make sure that you save changes here. And then the next step is you can also add a community header or a brand logo here. So this is, you would just upload the image here, and then you can select that image. And this is a community-specific image library, so that it's not going to pull into any of your other surveys. It'll keep it all housed within the Survey Analytics community here. So the next thing, once you have your member portal set up, what you want to do is you want to go and start to import your members. So if you have a pre-existing list of customers, the easiest way to get those customers into the community is to go to the members and then the import-export tab here. So once you click the import-export, you can see that this first option here is to bulk import members. You can see that you have some email address here, and then you have first name, last name, password that you might have in your file. And then you can see here that these are different profile fields that you have set up, and I can show you how to set those up in a minute here. And then you can hit import, choose your file, and then hit import members. Now the next step that you want to do is set up your incentives. So to set up your incentives, you can go to incentives, and then you want to go to your inventory here. And then once you're at your inventory, you just hit create new inventory. And this is where you can add rewards so that as your panelists are redeeming points, they can, or as are, sorry, not redeeming points, but as they are getting points for taking surveys and doing different tasks, they can go and they can redeem their rewards here, or their points for rewards. So then you can select your reward type. You can go with the Amazon gift card. You enter in the information. You put your card value in here. So I'm going to say it's $10, and then I'm going to save the changes. You can see now my Amazon gift card is in stock.
So Dan, let me interrupt here. This is a really, really cool seamless integration with the rewards, and you saw there are tons of options. And I think when you have a really well-managed community where you have great rewards that you're offering, where you are keeping all these people engaged, I think we've seen participation up to 80 to 95% participation rates from community panel members on deployments of surveys that have been sent via these communities. And I think this is part of what gets them, what attracts them, is doing a really good job of using those rewards, getting great, making it easy for them to get those points accumulated so they can get the rewards. You don't want to make it so hard that they never are able to redeem anything. But I think this is great, just how many options there are to be able to keep all your community members engaged.
Yeah, no, I mean, the points, it's definitely good to keep them engaged, and the 85 to 90% that you mentioned is definitely something that we see across the board when clients are using rewards in their community. So yeah, no, it's definitely a great step. So once you have your reward set up, what you can do is you can also go back and you can start to customize your site a little more. And how you can do that is under site setup here, You can scroll down a little bit, and you can see that here's where you can edit some of the content that you want shown to members in the portal. And you can also add customized pages as well, so that if one of these templates for a page doesn't cover exactly what you want, you can add your own custom page with your own text as well, to make just add to that look and feel. There are a few more advanced settings that you can do. These community modules here are modules that you can enable inside of your member portal, and these are really great to help out with engagement. You can have it so you can enable the rewards and points here, which we just set up. The discussions, you can turn this on, and there are different discussions that you can enable inside of the community that really help that engagement piece. So you can ask questions to the community. So this is really a good engagement piece. Another thing that I'd like to mention is the Facebook integration that we have. So through Facebook, you can have your community members log in with their Facebook information, and then that way that pulls through. So that way, they're not having to remember a lot of usernames and passwords, so it just makes it a little bit easier. And then we also offer additional security settings here as well. So now that you have some of these more advanced settings in place, you can also go to members and profile here, and this is where you can start to set up some of the profile fields or information that you're going to want to set up to collect about your members. And they can answer these questions on a profiling survey and also inside of the member portal as well. So from here, you can add new profile fields just clicking this button. You can title it, label it, you can select your field type, and then you can save changes here. And then it will show up just under here as another member portal field. So once you have all your profile fields set up, the next thing that you can do is you can go and you can also send out a survey invitation. So you have your member portal set up, you have your site set up, you've imported members, you set up your incentive. So again, the next step now is to send that survey invitation off. So how you can do that inside of this community is you go to invitation, and then you go to send. When you go this, you would select the survey that you want, and then you select your survey length, and then you can go and you can set up the template for the email invitation that you want to use here, and then you can also set your points and rewards here. So once you do that, you hit next step, and then that deploys out, and once that deploys out, you can go and you can view some history here, so you would be able to search by the name, status, start date, and end date. And I can show you here another example of a little bit more of a panel that has a little bit more of a robust invitation history, so that you can see some of that information as well. So once you have that, I think the next step would be to then go and view some of the information. So I think I'll jump over here to another panel, and I'll show you some of the history that you can view. So this is the same screen that you were seeing before, the invitation history here. Then you can, these are each of the different surveys that you sent out. So you can easily get the reports and analytics here. So you can view the Excel report or SPSS report. And what these reports do are it'll cross the data, or it'll have both the panelist profile information along with the survey data. So you'd be able to see and match up that data and run some pretty exciting charts and graphs based on that as well, and really dig into the analysis. Also, if you click on this link here, it'll bring you to what we call the history. And in this history, you can choose to send reminders. You can also view the reports and analytics as well. But this will give you a good snapshot of how your particular deployment or survey invitation, how it went. So you can see how many completed, you can see the target number, your completion rate, your completion points, the initial sent, the number that bounced here, you can see that as well, along with different member status, so you can see how many are pending, completed again, how many were email push, or how many with a mobile. You can also break it down so you can see the profile scorecard. So you can see how many members have completed based on a certain segment. So that is really the history and all the information that you can get there.
And what I love about this too, Dan, is you get this analytics here, and it's awesome that you can export to Excel or to SPSS, combine all the panel information with all the survey information. But if you just want to use the reporting just about the survey itself without the panel information, that's where this combination between the QuestionPro and this communities setup is really awesome, because all of the survey data is still available in your QuestionPro account. So if you just want the survey data without the panel information, you can still get that from your QuestionPro Reports tab, with all of the cool stuff that you can do from there with exporting and looking at each individual question.
Yep. Excuse me. Yep, that's exactly right. And the next thing that after you have your invitation history, if you want to get a snapshot of how your community is doing overall, there's an analytics tab here, and you can view the dashboard. And this is really community health dashboard, and you can see how your community is doing. One thing that you will find here is you can see in the last month how many signups have happened, how many have verified, and how many have completed their profile. And if you want to view not just in the last month, but maybe the last 6 months, you can quickly change the interval here, and you can see that we've had 27 signups, 27 verified, and 51 have completed their profile completion. So this gives you a clear snapshot of how healthy your community is. You can also see the chart here that shows the community signups over time, and also the number that are verified out of those who have signed up. You can also start to see the profile status of pending and completed. You can also see where your members are coming from, how they're signing up, if they're via upload, the web, or iPhone, Android referral. You can get a clear picture of what are your most successful referral areas that you can then target and try to get more members from that, that avenue.
Now, one of the other cool things about this that I think we should bring up here, and we had a question here about asking if communities can be set up in different languages. So the full question was if it could be set up simultaneously, and right now the answer is no, we can't do the same portal and you just do a drop down and select your language. However, you can have multilingual portals. So you can set up a portal in English, set up a portal in Greek, set up a portal in Spanish, and you can have the information here, this same information of the profile information. You can still get that for each portal. We are working on putting together that seamless, kind of like how we have multilingual surveys where you can just choose the language with the same URL. We are still working on that, putting that together. That will be coming hopefully later this year. But right now, I actually think there's benefit to having separate portals with that information. If you want to have, let's say, a portal that is specific to a product, but you want to see the product information from Latin America versus the United States versus Northern America, you can have two different portals, one in Spanish, one in English, and have all that information here for each of those portals. But if you are interested in having those simultaneous portals, we are working on getting that done, and we will definitely be blogging about it and letting you know when we do get that done.
Great. Yeah, so the final thing that I wanted to kind of go over is after you have an established community, or even before that, you can do a lot of things with the member portal, and you can really customize it the way that you want so that it matches your overall brand image and brand appearance. So I'll show you some examples of other member portals that we have set up that really kind of go beyond the typical templated look and feel. So This is a Nibbles and Munch panel, and it's all about, foodies, food lovers, so you can join the community there. There's also a, Lonely Planet community that, for people that love to travel. This is some of the member portal that you can set up and you customize, fully, CSS enabled as well.
What would you do if we have a question here? Can you set up a portal that's not specific to one brand but serves multiple brands? What would you do in that kind of situation?
Yeah, if it didn't just fit one brand and that you wanted it to be multiple brands, what I would probably do is I would set up the URL as something a little bit more generic so that it fits, encompasses all the brands. And I would probably, if you're able to, I would include in the header all of the different brands that maybe it services.
Yeah.
That might be the best approach. I would think to overall engagement, and so when people are coming in from either brand and they're joining your member, their community, they're not going to be turned off if they don't see their brand listed.
Right, right. And I think too, one of the things that you could do is you could have one of those profile questions that you have new community members sign up on. You can always list the multiple brands that you want to serve with the single community. Ask them to let you know what brands they participate with and what brands they are interested in providing feedback on. And then, as you saw with the profile, you can always go filter down to that profile item. And so you can filter, let's say you're Kellogg and you have all the cereal brands, and let's say you want to just talk about one of your cereal brands. You can always just filter to that profile item and choose the people who said that they regularly eat that cereal brand, and boom, there you go. You have the group of people that you're going to have answer questions about that brand. So you can always include that as a profile item, and that way you have one portal serving multiple brands. You're running different research campaigns across multiple brands from that single portal.
Yep, yeah, that's exactly right. So you can, once you have the profiling information here, you set up the profile fields, and then when you're going to sample and you go to the filters and you create a new sample filter, you can segment off of any of the profile fields that you have set up. So if you only wanted to send a survey out to a certain subset, a community that may service multiple brands, you can easily do that here when you're creating this sample filter.
Yeah, which is totally awesome, because being able to filter down to that, man, you just totally opened up all sorts of avenues for really targeting those surveys. Again, going back to keeping those surveys short, sweet, to the point, you've got it right there, because you know who you are surveying. You already know information about them for what they are interested in providing feedback for, and there you go. You've got your surveys that you're able to field. Now, another question, Dan, that has come through for the customization. So you were showing some really awesome portals that had been created. Where did that customization happen? Does that customization happen on the customer end? Is that something that, how did they go about doing that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You can definitely customize it on your end, on the customer end, or it's something that you can work with QuestionPro and Survey Analytics on to customize for you. If you know CSS and HTML and you're well versed in that, you can easily do that by going to Site Setup, and you have access to the CSS style sheet here, so you can update all of this information to have it rendered to one of the more customizable member portals.
Sweet. And I think if you a couple months ago, QuestionPro, we did a special free training on customizing and personalizing surveys, and it was very similar, where if you have full CSS support already, so I know a number of organizations that their IT departments, their graphic departments have the full CSS, you can use that here. Same kind of thing, except here you have it down at the bottom for edit your site HTML pages. Click that CSS, import that CSS, test it out, and you're good to go. So totally possible for you to get your IT and graphics departments to help out with getting that CSS design so that you can have those really awesome looking portals that have full brand experience. Cool. So we're looking at some of the questions that are still coming in. Thank you so much for the questions that have been asked. We did have one that I think is great to bring up here, and it was asking if we had support for doing portals in Hebrew. We have support for doing portals in multiple languages. So yes, Hebrew is among those. We do support that. So great question to ask there about our multilingual capabilities. We have had a great time today talking about the QuestionPro plus communities and how to build your online community panel. As a reiteration, we are recording this. We will be sending that out by the end of this week. We'll be sending the recording. We'll be sending the PowerPoint slides. We will also be sending a how-to guide, and we're hoping to have that out by the end of this week. And if not, we will certainly be sending it out within the next week, right, early next week. But it will have some of more of that best practices and the steps that Dan had just gone through for how you can easily, quickly set up your own community panel. We have a great question. Do you have a % engagement level if you don't use the point method? So Dan, do we have any customers that they might not do points, but maybe they say, because I know I'm a member of a panel that they send out surveys and it's always, you have the opportunity to get a big prize if you participate versus if you have points that you're accumulating for you to be able to get stuff. What are some of the other engagement tools that we have aside from just the point allocation?
Yeah, so I mean, some other engagement tools and just certain rates that we see. It really depends on the product, and I think how engaged your customers or your members are just naturally to the product. So it really ranges. It's definitely not as high as the 85 to 95% that we said earlier. I think we've seen more in the 30 to 50% range, somewhere in there. But some other ideas just to keep people engaged are sometimes they may get early notice to maybe things that are happening or coming out, or I've seen even in some markets to where they'll invite some of their customers to come to a particular location and they'll have like a little party for them, and also maybe get them some advanced releases of a few things as well. So there's those things that you can do. You can also just keep things fun, entertaining. That's where the community discussions really comes into play, where you can pose good questions and keep people coming back, and also allow the community members to answer questions as well. So, I mean, those are some of the real key engagement pieces. And I think if you're not using rewards, it can definitely still be a successful community, and we've definitely seen that through multiple communities that aren't using rewards.
Yeah, and I think, we have some other options. We have badges, we have discussions, we have events and drawings for those big ticket items. I think also a lot of this can depend on how you engage with your community. So we had a question that came through on how often do we recommend that someone engage with their community to keep them involved. And honestly, you don't have to be surveying your community once a week, but having some kind of regular engagement once a month, maybe you're sending out a survey, maybe sending out just a discussion point once a week, doing something that keeps you engaged. We have that forums that we showed earlier for people to be able to submit discussions. You can start discussions. You can do all of that information here that allows you to be able to keep people engaged. So at least once a quarter, send out that survey. Use some quick polls every month to be able to keep people feeling like they're engaged. There are also there are groups where the information that that is being presented in the surveys or in the polls or in the discussions is of such high value, of such high interest to the people that are in the panel, that even without the point system being used, they're still seeing response rates of 80 to 90%, which I think that says a lot about those community managers really getting to know their community and really getting to know what things their community are engaged in to be able to keep them engaged without necessarily using the point system or even reward systems. Because I know a lot of government practices, you can't do that. Government organizations, you can't do that with the community, but yet they're finding ways to keep them engaged by getting really hot topic items that keep people coming back to provide feedback. We have a question here. Someone says they represent a community with medical issues. And Dan, I know that we have security in place, security items that can be used to help with the privacy on that. Can you just give us a rundown of where we can find the security pieces so that if we want to have a really good secure panel, how would we go about doing that?
Yeah, we can definitely have a secure panel, and we have multiple clients using this for medical or HIPAA compliant as well. So to get to that, you would go to the advanced settings, and you can see here that you can make it password protected. You can also enable the SSL security as well, and you can have verification to view profile. So these are some of the big community or the big security things that you can do. On the back end, there's some other things that we can do as well to make it more secure, like only members that you want to have sign up will sign up. So those are some of the big areas where you can really leverage the security that we offer.
Cool. We also have another question here. So QuestionPro, would we administer the distribution of the point cards, or does the administrator have to go and manually check? And that you as the administrator actually don't have to keep going back and checking how many points people have gathered. The cool thing about communities is it's all done there for you. So you do need to put the inventory and keep an eye on your inventory so you don't run out of inventory. That is the one thing that you as a community manager would need to do. But as far as assigning points, you saw when Dan was showing there, you can assign how many points could be distributed if a person participates in a survey or participates in a poll. Those points get automatically applied. And so those people can see their own point balance. They can then go and they can redeem for any of the rewards you included in your inventory. And speaking of inventory, you don't have to just use anything from the drop-down menu. You can use your own custom rewards in that inventory, so you can put that in there. So if you want to do a gift card drawing for your particular place of business, you can totally set that up and have your own reward in as part of the options for the rewards that you're offering to your community members, or anything else. You really can do anything else. So yes, you don't have to go in and keep track of points. That's done automatically. And yes, you can have custom items, coupons, your own whatever you want to put together as a reward for your community participants. All right. So we are already a little over time. We are about 6 minutes over time. We are so glad for all of the engagement that we have had, all of the questions that you have been submitting. They have been absolutely awesome. Thank you, Dan, for your awesome demo of communities.
So at this point, we had a few technical difficulties that caused the webinar to end early. We will be following up with everyone who registered and attended and answer your questions that you may have presented. Thank you so much for attending.